place where we deal with reality. So, real topics, what's poppin', no stopping, just make sure you watching. This is show for entrepreneurs and for those who clockin'. Black people, brown people, ab people, this culture. We're supposed to support one another, let love take over in the living room. It's the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room, where real conversations take place. It's the living room.
Thank you so much for tuning in on this evening. We are back. It is the living room where real conversations take place. Again, it's your boy, the Bishop, and I'm back. I'm refreshed, just came from out of town. Church folks miss me. I love them, but I had to come to the living room before I came to church. Look at that. I am here tonight. I have a wonderful guest that's with me tonight, and we're going to be talking about financial education in the black community. And so as you're here on Facebook, we want to remind you to tag somebody, start a watch party. I think they still do that today. Start a watch party. If you like something that you hear, we want you to go ahead and click on that like button. If you love something that you hear, we want you to click on that heart. Yes, again, Bishop Palmer, I'm back, the living room. Also, the comment section. We want you to put some comments, ask some questions. We may be able to answer some questions tonight as it pertains to financial education. So we want you to chat it up with us. We have somebody standing by ready to chat with you. So before we begin our first segment, I need you to give it up for the best band in town. That's right, it's Darren Brown and the Living Room Band. We'll be right back. That is yours truly, Darren Brown and the Living Room Band. Look, you didn't even know we were short a couple of people tonight. They play so good, so well, and we're going to be back with our saxophone player and our guitar players and all. But listen, the groove don't get away from Darren Brown. Listen, we're back. A couple of announcements that I do want to make while I got it on my mind. On this Saturday, you don't want to miss it. You still have time. I think we're going to call it a flash sale tonight. We're gonna open up that box that says $99. You know the regular price now that it's going for because that early bird special had went away. But we're gonna do a flash sale. Somebody told me to do a flash sale. That means that from the time I'm making this announcement until tomorrow night, you got 24 hours. What time is it right now? 7 p.m. tomorrow night is gonna close back up and it'll be $2.99. But on this Saturday, you wanna make sure that you take opportunity for the $99 special. It's not an early bird special no more because you're really late. But it's a flash sale special, $99 for the Blacks in the Bible master class. You don't want to miss it. It's going to start at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. And yours truly will be teaching the class. Listen, we've been teaching the class since 2017. Now we open it up. Somebody told me it's a master class. I said, no, it's the master's class. All right, come on, talk to me. Listen, let me get in. Juneteenth is going to be a celebration that like never before this year. My good friend Phyllis T. Adams is orchestrating a dynamic celebration for Juneteenth. We're going to have more information about that as the days approach us. But we want you to prepare you and your entire family, and for you to tell everybody in your neck of the woods to come on out for the Juneteenth event. Listen, tonight with me, I have a special guest. She's has 25 years of experience developing financial education programs and implementing initiatives to promote financial health and capability within Maryland and even nationally. While employed at University of Maryland, she was the co-developer for an award-winning health insurance literacy initiative curriculum and national initiative to equip consumers with tools needed to make the best health insurance plan decision. Okay, we need this. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. She currently develops financial education content and programs for a financial institution and teaches personal financial courses at Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland. And this is something here. We got some smart folks that come on this show here. Look, all right. Her personal interest in improving the financial well-being of diverse populations, especially, come on, talk to me, the Black community, and developing youth financial capability through entrepreneurship and organizational behavior, including work-related well-being. I want you to put your hands together right there at home or wherever you may be, right here in person gathering. Put your hands together and welcome with me my special guest, Mia Russel. Welcome, Mia.
Thank you.
We're going to give you a social distance high five, handshake, and all
Yes.
that. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight for the living room. Guess what? We're about to have a real conversation.
Okay.
You are, I want to say the word guru when it comes to financial education. We have a couple of mutual friends, Judge Vicki Gibson,
Yes.
and also somebody texted me and said, hey, you got my friend on your show. I said, who? and that was Monica Lindsay. Mm-hmm. Okay, and she told me to tell you hi. So we give a shout out to Monica and Judge Vicki on tonight as they're watching. I have a couple of questions that we're gonna open up with, and so I want to first ask for the audience who may not even heard the term financial education. What is financial education?
So I think that's a really good place to start. When I think about financial education, more broadly, we might call it financial capability, right? It's like the know-how and the knowledge and the ability to make informed financial decisions, like that's best for you and your family. So financial education is a part of this broader need and desire for information to make good decisions. And so we know that financial education, like just knowledge, isn't enough. It's also about opportunities to practice, having access. But financial education is how we get started.
Awesome. So I like the part that you said basically so we can make some sound, informed decisions as it pertains to finance. And it really impacts and affects not only our lives individually, but if we have family and we husband and wives and all kinds of things like that, then it really, our decisions when it comes to finances impact our entire family.
Right.
So we need this information that you are providing for us tonight. So how did you get started in this industry, if you will, in this field of financial education?
So I stumbled my way through, right? I had a internship in college. I went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore as undergraduate, and I had an internship. They thought that If you were working on a business degree, that maybe you knew how to do budgeting, right?
Right.
And so I worked in the town manager's office and helped people that receive public benefits create budgets and go through some of the application process. And that kind of, I was interested, right?
Right.
And I have been interested since I was, I don't know, 19 or 20.
Wow.
And
That was like 5 years ago.
yeah, just 5 years ago. Yeah, just 5 years
See
ago.
what I'm saying?
And I've just had, I truly have been blessed to have many different opportunities across what we would call like a financial spectrum, from working at a bank to teaching, being a real estate broker, like all different types of things that help to build a strong financial foundation.
Right.
But it was not what I intended to do. But it kind of happened, and it fit me well.
Right, right. So you didn't intend to, and trust me, a lot of us, we start to bridge over into a field that we never intended from the beginning. I didn't intend on being a preacher, but I ended up. That's the call of God, I guess. That's what they tell me is God called me, snatched me up for that, right? But we understand it. So then you develop a passion for, and I read here in your bullet points for to help diverse communities, but especially the Black community. When did you feel like a passion to start helping others when you started learning this literacy yourself?
So I think starting with my first job out of college, right? I helped people that were denied for home mortgages.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it was called a credit counselor. I would kind of, I don't really like that word, credit counselor, but that was the position title. But I worked for a bank, and when people went in and they were denied, they were referred to this group. And if they can opt in, and if they needed help resolving issues, we tried to help them. Not like a credit repair company, nor like kind of a credit resolution or debt resolution company, not like that. We just helped them work through their issues on their own, right? We just gave them support and accountability. And I realized how important credit was, right? And then I started to tell my friends and family things that I learned, right? I was, I don't know, 22 or 23, and I'm helping people that are twice my age or even older resolve issues. And I'm, as people reflect, right, and they become more self-aware, they mention things like, I wish I would have never fill in the blank, right? Or it all started when I fill in the blank. And I think I learned nuggets that were really helpful. And so I think somewhere around there, I saw, I mean, it reinforced the importance of credit, because in school, nobody talked to me about balancing a checkbook, having a credit card. My first experience with credit was in school when Discover was in the campus, and they said, you want a pack of Starburst, and we'll give you an application, just fill this out. And I had a Discover card. So nobody really told me, what does it mean once you get this thing, right? So I think this, the awareness of the significance of credit, and then really how, especially in America, credit represents your character. And whether or not we agree, this is how people examine us, right? Do we pay people back, or are we overextended? All of these other things impact life insurance rates, health insurance rates, depending on where you live. It impacts whether you can get a job.
And and I was going to say, on top of that, so we kind of got a double whammy going on there. So our credit score, and because we're Black. So, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, okay, now you got a low credit score and you're Black. And you want me to give you a loan? And but the importance of credit. Even in now, what's a good credit score to have, or a great credit score to have? What do people potentially want to get to say, hey, I can start really getting a good loan with low interest rates and things of that nature?
So I want to go back to the defining financial education, right? I think one thing that's really important about personal finance is that it's personal. And there's really no, while there are some hard and fast rules, that everything, there's so many, there are multiple factors, right?
Okay.
So when you say what is a good credit score, what should I be striving for, truly is the higher the better, right?
Right.
So, you know, we often look at a Fico score. This is what many people now, depending on, you know, depending on the type of bank account they have, financial institution, and maybe credit card company, they might even get their Fico scores free.
Right.
You know, the closer to 800, the better, right?
Okay.
That's, you know, if you're over 700, you know, 750, that's excellent, right?
Right.
But I find that so many people are worried about the score instead of the what's on the report,
Right.
right? And so,
Talk to us about that, because
Okay.
that's very important.
yeah,
What's on the credit
right.
report? Yeah. Go
Yes.
ahead.
So your credit score is, you know, derived from the data that the credit bureaus put on the credit report. And we have a opportunity to get our credit report checked, to check our credit report right now because of COVID-19 weekly. But in general, you know, pre-COVID, you could check it once per year per credit bureau. And it's really important to make sure it's accurate information on it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so I find that people are really focused on the score instead of, it's almost like that's the presenting problem and they don't worry about the root cause.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, how do you find out what's on your credit report, and how? And I mean, if you're trying to do it yourself, you know, I know that there are, you know, companies or whatever out here. But if you say, hey, you know what, I want to do this myself. I want to take personal responsibility, look at my score, and then start trying to get some of this stuff off of here that's on there that's not doing me any good.
Yeah, so the first thing is I would go to annualcreditreport.com, right?
Annualcreditreport.com.
Right. I'll say it again for both of us, annualcreditreport.com. So there are many sites, like there's a commercial with a little jingle for some other site that's not free. But Congress authorizes one free credit report per year from each of the bureaus at annualcreditreport.com, okay? And you can get one. There are 3 credit bureaus: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian.
Okay.
They compile data from many, many different companies, and they report it to almost anybody that asks anything about you, right? The reports will have different information because every company or like every creditor may not report to every credit bureau in the same way.
Right.
I made mention of the new provision because of COVID. So right now, the scams and frauds are at all-time highs, right? Like FTC has reported something crazy, like hundreds of % increases in scams and frauds.
Wow.
So right now, we have access to check our credit report free weekly. I mean, that's pretty bad if they're going from once a year to once a week, right? But there are so many frauds and scams that have come out of the woodworks.
But are there protections? I mean, are they like companies that can kind of protect your credit?
So when you say protection, I see commercials for that too, right?
Right.
You can do a security freeze or a credit freeze where the credit bureau cannot share your information unless you give them a special passcode. That is an option that is typically free for the 3 credit bureaus.
Okay, so I've never heard of that. I don't know if you guys, have you heard of that before? I never heard of that. So say that.
So it's like you
because
can,
somebody's watching. It was
Yeah.
like, I ain't never heard of that before. Right. So say it again about that, because that's important.
So each of the credit bureaus, and there are pros and cons to it, so we'll talk about that, but each of the credit bureaus allow you an opportunity to freeze your credit report, meaning no one can ask for a copy of your credit report
Okay.
without permission. And in order to get permission, there's like think about it as a security alarm on your credit report, right? So your alarm goes off and the alarm company calls and they say, you know, Bishop Palmer, your alarm is off, is it safe? And you say, yes, everything's cool. And they say, well, what's your code word? Right? So it sounded like a code word, right? You put in a security layer, right, over your credit report. Now, this works sometimes, like, again, in these times, it could be really helpful because we know scams and frauds are up. I mean, people, their record number in Maryland, record number of fraudulent unemployment claims, people getting, you know, your social and doing all kinds of things. Same thing with IRS. We see it all the time with tax refunds. But if you are shopping for something, right, then you've got to call and take the alert, you know, the freeze off so that you can do what you're trying to do.
Right.
So there, and sometimes people forget that they have the security freeze, but that is it could either be called a security freeze or a credit freeze, and all of the credit bureaus offer it.
Right. Wow. Wow. That's good. That's good information. And so, but there are some, I guess, some companies out here that say that they help you secure your identity theft kind of stuff that goes on, and it can secure.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of the kind of identity company, security companies, nor credit monitoring companies. I think that you can do it yourself.
Okay.
And many people that I meet that have interest in these monitoring companies or kind of the security companies, they have some credit blemishes and they're really working hard to protect it.
Okay.
But it would be better to use the money that you're paying for the monitoring service or the theft prevention service to pay off the bad debt.
Wow.
Right? It'd be better to use that and then monitor your credit report by just checking it on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, whatever you needed to do.
Okay. All right. So, and how much? So after you get your free annual report, and then you, like you say, okay, I want to check it quarterly. Is there like a payment that you would have to pay?
So a kind of a best practice or kind of a easy tip people often use is they'll check one per quarter. So let's say you go Equifax in January, or maybe, you know, every few months. In May-ish, you'll pull TransUnion. October-ish, you pull Experian. And then so you're not doing all three at once, but you're spacing it out. And that gives you enough of a window into what's on your credit profile that you can catch things.
Right. Why, and this is a question that I have, and maybe some in the audience may have the same question. Why do the three credit bureaus most of the time have three different credit scores and information on your credit? Why?
It's more about who reports to them. So years ago, like, you know, like probably when I first started in learning about this, my first job, there were, you know, companies were regional, and they might only report to the regionally based credit bureau. But now, in this age, they're very, very close. Right. It could be that, you know, you could have an account hasn't shown up on one credit report, or it's typically about who's reporting. But they're getting closer and closer together. You rarely see wide ranges as we did years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at mine again. Thought I saw some range like this. No, but no, that's good. That's good explanation to show why they vary at times. Now, so we want to go from credit. Now let's swing back to debt.
Okay.
You know, what is, and this and as we talking about debt, and then we'll follow up, because we're gonna break after we deal with debt, and then we'll have a super conversation when we get back. Now, so debt, what is the impact of debt? Why do people get in so much debt, and it's hard perhaps for many to recover from that debt? I mean, what's going on? Why? I mean.
So I equate it to like weight loss, right? It's easy to put on the pounds, but it's really, really challenging for some, I guess. I'm included in the some, to get them off, right?
Okay.
And so credit is easy. It's easy to spend, right? First of all, we make things so easy, right? You swipe, right? You might even use your phone now. We have cards tied to our all different carts and all different accounts. All you got to do is swipe or click a button, one click, and it's at your house the next day, right? So I think we make it very easy to spend money. And sometimes with that ease, um, it's also easy to impulse spend, right? There's research, Michelle Singletary, Washington Post, right? She talked about how people are more likely to spend. You spend more when you use plastic. Even if it's a debit card, you spend more, just not as much as if it's a credit card. So if you think about, I don't know how much these new, I have an iPhone, I just ordered a new one. This new iPhone 12 is like $13.99. It's hurting me really
Yeah,
badly.
look.
But if I had to pay for it in the Verizon store, counting out 20s, I might think again.
Right.
Right? But we make things so easy with a swipe of a card I mean, it'll be there tomorrow with a simple swipe. So I think it's easy, right? That's one part. And if we're not tracking our expenses and we're not tracking how we're spending, it's also easy to find ourselves with some kind of insurmountable amount of debt.
Right. Wow. So do you feel that that the cash age is going away, or would that always be? What do you feel about?
Well, we've seen with COVID-19, right, where people say they prefer that you not pay with cash, right? So in it, like unintentionally, we may be going there, but it's I think if we can't always use cash, we need to be more intentional about how we spend.
Right.
Right. But we know when we use plastic, we spend more. There's no pain associated with the plastic.
Right. Right. At least not at first, huh?
Not at first. Not at first.
All right. So yeah, debt. So the importance or the impact of debt. So once we get into, like you said, almost like weight loss programs or whatever, it's easy to put on the weight, hard to take it off. When we get into debt, it causes a whole lot of trouble that, we have. When we're spending, it's easy, we feel good about it, and, and then before the new of that thing wears off, we find ourselves unable to pay for what we got, on credit. And then it affects our credit score, right? Right. And now it's hard for us to buy anything, or the interest rate is sky high. Is there like a max interest rate that they can put on you?
So those are like state laws. So each state has a usury law where there is a maximum interest rate. Okay. But are we about to go to break?
Go ahead.
Okay. One other thing I think is really important, if you think about wanting to get out of debt, right? It's sometimes helpful to, we talk, I just was kind of making a joke about it's easy to swipe with plastic. But, people have also said, we could have plastic surgery, right? Like cut up our cards, not use the cards. Right. Or keep your cards away from you so that it's, keep them at home. And then while you're out, you have to think about, do I really want to come back and buy this, whatever this thing is? Right. Or even set maybe a special dollar amount. Anything over $50, I'll sleep on and come back and buy tomorrow. Right? Okay. There are things that we can do from like a behavioral economics perspective to help us slow down.
We might need a whole class on behavioral economics because we need a lot of discipline to build the right habits.
Yes,
when it comes to finances, and that's our community, and we are the largest consumers here in our nation is the African American, and so we have to really have best practices and really hone in on some habits that's going to be able to help benefit us than to destroy us. And if we're going to get together, if we're going to build and have economic reform, we've got to learn how to do what you're doing now and teaching one another of these financial education, and for us to be able to turn this thing around, because we're still stagnant and stuck, as a people. We really need to, as we're getting this information that you're pouring out to us, as we're getting this, we need to really sharpen ourselves so that individually we could start having some breakthroughs, and then collectively as a people, we can start getting to having some breakthroughs and getting to the other side of the Jordan, like we say. So we're gonna take a short break, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna continue our conversation on financial education in the Black community. We still have some good information left that we need to convey to you. Mia Russel is my special guest, and she's doing an incredible job. Let's hear it one more time for Darren Brown and the Living Room Band, and we'll be right back. 3 minutes, 3 seconds. All right, I am back, and give it up one more time for Darren Brown and the Living Room Band. They awesome job, and just was leading us into some good jazz right there, right here on the Living Room. I'm back. We're going to start what we call our second segment. We've been having, if you just joined us, we've been having a great dialogue. I'm with my special guest, Mia Russel, and we've been dialoguing, having a healthy conversation on financial education in the Black community. And so we're going to pick up where we left off. We've been talking about credit versus the debt, the importance of credit, your credit score, or really your credit history that's on the report, the things that are on the report, and debt. Why we get in debt, and maybe we can have some practical habits that can get us out of debt now that some of us may be in debt, and for what we know in America is a large community, a percentage of people that are in debt. And so, and out of that percentage, there's a great percentage of African American families that are in debt. So we want to make sure that you get this information, and perhaps you're hearing something that you can gravitate to and lock in on, that's going to help you begin to turn this thing around for your life, because we understand that, as a pastor, I understand that a lot of families are destroyed because of financial situations and hardships and things of that nature, and money is tough on relationships if we don't get a grip on it, and we can lose one another. And we don't want to do that. And that's why I have my special guest, Mia Russel, here, and she's talking to us about financial education and the Black community. And so we're back. And so, Mia, we've talked about credit, we've talked about debt, and now let's kind of spin from there and talk about building wealth. Okay, I think this is very important. Building wealth. There's a scripture that we always share, and that's a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And we don't believe, at least here, we don't believe that that's just talking about a spiritual inheritance, which is very important, which is primary. Of course, you want to make sure that they enter into the kingdom. However, as we're going on dancing with the Lord, when our day comes, we want to make sure that we have left our the next generation and the generation after that, left them some financial benefits or some material benefits that they can utilize and even build upon. So let's talk about wealth building. I think that's the term that they use today. So what are some of the ways that we can build wealth here in?
Yeah, so I think we first point to home ownership, right? I definitely agree with that, right? So home ownership, starting a business, right, a sustainable business, those are our two largest wealth drivers, right?
Okay.
There are other things that we do that have impact, but maybe not as significant, right? So building an investment kind of portfolio, actually starting to invest long term, right? Stock market and things like that. That's how we build wealth, right? So if we start with probably what we could call the easiest, right? Home ownership. We know that right now we're having this COVID housing boom, right? But in general, your properties appreciate. But we did see the, I almost want to say I don't know a stronger word than like the theft of wealth after the 2008 global housing crisis, right?
The bubble burst.
And when you say things are, tough in general, right? A lot of those things that are tough in general are felt more intimately or more significantly in the Black community, right? So while lots of people lost their homes or had their wealth evaporate, it affected us a little more. And you still have people now trying to recover from that, right? So I think the key to home ownership is buying what you can afford.
Okay, that's
right?
that's good to know.
Yeah. In a similar way that we talk about debt, right? So it should be something that's manageable. And most lenders don't want to have too much of a payment shock, right? So if you're paying $2,000 now for rent, they'd like you to be able to see if you could afford, buy something in that same range so that it doesn't impact your budget. It doesn't financially hurt you, right? That's the goal. I also think it's important to buy what you comfortably can afford, not necessarily just what a lender has told you you can afford.
Oh, that's good to know. So there's something that they utilize, the lenders, the debt to income ratio.
Right.
Okay, so talk to us about that and why is that important? And I think it's kind of similar on the lines you're.
Yeah, so most lenders look at a debt to income ratio that they don't want your mortgage payment to exceed 28 or 29% of your gross monthly income. But nobody lives off their gross monthly income, right? So while you might be able to get approved for that amount, you probably really want to compare that amount to your actual budget.
Okay.
To see, like, can I actually afford this number, right?
So now you said the word budget.
Yes.
I should, maybe while we're chatting, maybe we need to ask the question, do you have a budget? So what's the importance of budgeting? We can kind of tie it in with the debt to income ratio and all that good stuff.
And so what I would say to that question, as people probably are like, no, I don't have a budget. I think everybody has a budget, right? Maybe it's not written, but we have an idea of all the inflows and what the outflows are, roughly, right? We may not compare it to what we project and what we actually spend, but we have a good idea. The key is actually getting it on paper, right? And I'm sure there's some scriptures that you could talk about with that too, right? But getting it on paper.
Write the vision, make it plain.
And actually trying to stay keep it in a line, right? You want to have a balance. So it's easy to, I have a Starbucks habit, right? It's easy to throw my budget awry by doing some of these things that I like. Starbucks habit, yeah. Or I mean, COVID-19 made me have an Uber Eats habit, right? Like, so there's lots of things that we want to do, but we have to learn how to do it in
Moderation.
moderation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Wow. I think you convicted some people. Starbucks and Uber Eats and and so if we do these things in moderation, so building wealth. And do you think that if we don't do it in moderation, that it actually affects our wealth building?
Yeah, because it decreases the, we have limited resources.
Okay.
And so we make choices where how we are going to use those resources.
That's good.
If we choose to use our resources in areas that aren't really aligned with our values or what we call our goals, then it's setting us further back, right? So, I think that's just the reality. Yeah.
So you mentioned about home ownership. Then you talked about starting a business or sustainable business, investments in 401k and IRA and all that good stuff. What about life insurance?
So
Is that needed?
I think that as soon as you have a dependents and or assets, it's needed, right? I personally come from the school of thought of buy term and invest the difference. I know that other people don't agree with that, right? So buy, not use life insurance as an annuity or as an investment, but I believe that you should use it as insurance. Upon your death, it pays out, and you can use that payout to address whatever you planned, right? I know some people believe in different types of insurance. That's there's tons of products, but it's important to make sure that you're able to take care of important financial needs,
Right.
even when we're gone, right? If you have young children and you want to get them through college, their life insurance might be essential to help them do that.
Right. So home ownership, if we spin back to home ownership, because you just mentioned something as far as like if you got kids and you want to have them go to college and things of that nature. So what's the benefit of home ownership versus renting if, for instance, hey, I'm renting, I'm cool with it, mama rent it, grandmama rent it, and now I'm going to rent. How can we get that person to see the benefit of home ownership?
So I think some of the benefits of home ownership, it really kind of fixes your costs, right? It allows some of your costs to be fixed. While your mortgage payment might change because your taxes might go up or your homeowner's insurance could go up, right? In general, the payment stays the same if you have a fixed rate loan, right, for 30 years, essentially. Your rent can go up, 5% a year can go up, whatever, right? It's whatever the terms of your lease are. Right. Some kind of on a personal level, you can do whatever you want in your house. That's legal, right? So if you want to paint all the walls black and with pink stripes, you can do that, right? You can do whatever you want, but you have to get permission to do these things. I know that might not be a pretty room, but I mean, if you wanted to, you could. Right. Where you have to get permission, right? Or you may not even be able to do those things if you don't own it. Right. I also think the bigger point where we talk about wealth building is about gaining equity, right? So you buy a house 10 years ago for $150,000, and today it's worth $250,000. You earned in essence $100,000, right? You have $100,000 in assets that if you wanted to cash out on, you wanted to sell your house, I'll just use that one. You also have the option of refinancing, but certainly the idea is if you needed to get the cash, you could. So whether you wanted to sell it to put a kid through school, or you want to pull some cash out, or whatever you wanted to do, you have access.
Or even start a business.
Start a business.
So you use funds from the equity to be able to start a business, and you start that business, sustainable business, and now you can actually have something that's still building wealth in addition to the home, you know. Or can people build equity and then have a second home? And so these are options.
Or a rental property. Maybe you want to take some cash out and buy a property that would be for investment purposes. You only plan to rent it out.
Right.
And then that allows you to build more wealth.
Right. So this is good. So for wealth building and seeing the potential and the benefits of home ownership, because always share that when you're renting, you're paying somebody else's mortgage, and they're actually benefiting from you renting. So, which is a person's preference, but it's more beneficial to be a homeowner. And now, not only in my mind, of course, I think inheritance and legacy and things of that nature. So now I get to leave. I pay off a house or whatever. Now I'm leaving. If the house was $400,000, I done left my family $400,000. You know what I mean? That they can sit on, or they can sell, or do whatever case they're gonna do, because I'm gonna be dancing with Jesus in glory anyway, right? So, but that's the benefit. But if I was renting for the next 30 years or whatever, I don't have anything I'm gonna leave anybody as it pertains to home ownership.
And there's some interesting calculators online. Like if a person is renting, like if they wanted to see how much they've paid over the past 30 years with looking at the time value of money, can be I don't know. It can hurt to look at that number, right?
Exactly.
But at least like you said, you're paying yourself. It's one way. We often talk about paying yourself first, right? And this is one way to do that.
Right. That's good. That's real good. So talk to us a little bit about 401k. And I wish we had enough time, but I know our time is escaping. But let's talk a little bit about a 401k. Why a person needs a 401k, or a retirement account, if you will.
Yeah. So long-term savings, like we're going to need money. Like we're going to need money. We may not be able to work our whole lives. Ideally, you don't want to, right?
Right.
And so in order to do that, you need to have some kind of cushion to help you get through, right? The days of pensions and other guaranteed income are diminishing, right?
Right.
So we're, especially in America, like we're tasked with funding our own retirement. So there are lots of employer-sponsored plans, which means your employer helps you out. So in this way, a 401k, most employers, whether it's depending on your sector, it could be a 403b or 457, but most employers will contribute to it, right? They want to help you out. So if you are not contributing, at least to the point that your employer is, you're giving away money. You're like leaving money on the table.
Right.
So if your employer says, I'll match you 6%, right? Essentially, you put in 6, they put in 6, you've got 12% of your income that you have saved in 1 year.
Wow.
If you don't put in that 6, they don't put in that 6, right? And sometimes they say, if you put in 1, we put in 1, but you could get the maximum, right? So most of the, it is often recommended that at a bare minimum, you save at least as much as your employer will save.
Okay.
But the IRS allows us to actually save up to $19,500 a year up to the age 50. And that might seem like a lot, but when if we look at our budget, again, this is why the budget really is important, to see like what kind of cuts might we want to make in order to be able to save more, right? Once you're 50, there's also a catch-up bonus where you can save even more. $20,000 typically.
I'm in that category.
$20,000 or $19,500, it typically seems like a lot to save, but if you think about it over the course of 26 weeks or 52 weeks or whatever, it's a little bit adds up, right?
Right. But now, are you saying that the 19,000 or whatever is that your employer helping you with that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that you can save on your own up to 19,500 if you're below 50, right?
Right.
But if your employer were to match some of it,
right.
then again, all of this depends, but at least as much as your employer matches, right?
Right. Right. Okay. All right. That's good. So 401k is a good way of building wealth.
You also talked about just retirement accounts in general, like we have traditional and Roth IRAs.
Right.
There are also just investment brokerage accounts that people may want to explore.
Okay. All right. Well, a lot of accounts. Put some money in it. No. But this was good. This was good because we're talking about building wealth. We went from credit and debt to managing our money to building wealth. And this is kind of that circle of life, if you will, when it comes to our finances, that we want to make sure that we can take personal responsibility to be a blessing, not only to ourselves, but then we can bless our families and hopefully be a blessing to our communities as well. So this is a good conversation. And but one of the things that I didn't want to leave out is that you were a co-developer of an award-winning health insurance literacy initiative curriculum.
Yes.
What is that about?
So while at Maryland, I worked on a health insurance literacy initiative team. And so this was a statewide effort. Actually, it turned into a national effort. But after the Affordable Care Act, often people call it Obamacare, but we tried to depoliticize it. So the Affordable Care Act opened up the health insurance to millions of Americans that never had health insurance before.
Right.
And so even if you've had health insurance before, sometimes you don't necessarily know how to actually choose the right type of health insurance plan or even use it. And so the curriculum was designed to help people understand things like health insurance terminology, like what is a deductible, what is a copay, what's coinsurance. Help people figure out when you get your health insurance booklet. It's a big booklet typically, and you have to flip through and try to figure out, how do I compare all these different plans? What's the right one?
Right.
So we created an exercise to help people go through and identify what their personal and family needs were, and which one aligned better with the available kind of insurance products that they had. And they've continued to build on this health insurance program. So how to use your insurance, kind of how to talk to a doctor, how to manage disputes, right? So if you have some major medical situation, you're going to get lots of bills, and sometimes, there could be hiccups, right? And so how do you navigate the dispute process and the appeal process?
Right.
So health insurance, we all, at some point in time, we're going to need to handle a health situation. And health insurance is a way for us to mitigate the excessive costs, right? I think we did some research looking at a broken arm. Like, we could slip or fall, right, and just break your arm. And it could cost about $10,000 from casting to follow-up to x-rays, prescriptions, all of these things.
Right.
I mean, $10,000 can throw your financial situation and it'll create chaos, right?
Wow.
So the program, and that's available and free for the public to use. That was a University of Maryland initiative. It's called Smart Choice, and it's available on the University of Maryland website.
Right. Good. Now I know that back a couple of years back, I had tore my Achilles playing basketball because somebody fouled me real hard. No, I'm just playing. But had I not had insurance, and I had Aflac, y'all. I had Aflac and insurance. So look, I got paid a little something too while I was recovering. But it could have impacted my financial situation. But thank God that my wife was able to make sure that we still had some good coverage, right? Listen, we are out of time, but can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about financial education and or can you help them and build their financial life?
So people can get in touch with me, but I'd also say that there are free, like accredited financial coaches that are offered at
Free?
free, in most areas, right? But we
Free.
have some here in Maryland.
Okay.
We have financial coaches through, I mentioned the University of Maryland, through the University of Maryland. There are associations, United Way, for example, houses some financial coaches. But but yeah, so they can contact me. I guess what, my email, maybe?
Okay, if you want to give it to them, right there, that camera.
Yeah, my email is miaBrussel@gmail.com. And if I can help anybody point them to resources, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, awesome. Mia, I really appreciate your time coming here to the living room and having this healthy conversation with me concerning finances, building our financial education, and especially in the African American community. We need conversations like this. I'm sure there are a busload of questions that perhaps that people have and that you probably answered. Hopefully you answered all of them for them, but I'm sure if there are other questions, again, they can contact you with the email that you've provided or these free services that are out here. And I know you mentioned the University of Maryland, and that's good to know, and then we can reach out to them. Now, this is a time in our, on our show where we do giveaways. So tonight, we have a special giveaway where we have our book. I have my book, one of my books, here on God's Rest Revealed, talking about financial education. We're going to need some good sound rest. We're not talking about you going to sleep at night at a decent hour. That helps too. But we're talking about the kind of rest that God reveals. There's a word that we use that's a biblical word or a Hebrew word called shalom, which oftentimes people just translate it as peace. But it's more than just peace. It's actually, shalom actually means to be well in every dimension of your life. And so whether it's financial, whether it's domestic, whether it's spiritual, God desires for you to be well in every dimension of your life. And so that's what God's Rest Revealed is all about. And so what we do is we like to give one of these books away to somebody who's going to win tonight. And the way that we do this is that the first person that types in the chat the correct answer to the question that I'm about to give you, then you will be the winner, the recipient of this free book here, God's Rest Revealed. All right, so our question for tonight is, where can you go for free financial services? Because it will help you that Ms. Mia Russel just mentioned to us. You can get one of those out of the ones that she had offered here for free services that you can go to get you some financial help. All right, go ahead and put it in the chat. And again, we appreciate Mia Russel for stopping by the living room where real conversations take place. Mia, it would be remiss of us if we didn't give you a little token of our appreciation. Here we have a t-shirt here that we make for all of our guests that comes on weekly. We have a wonderful t-shirt and that says here, Building Black Wealth. Okay,
thank you.
And on the back it says the living room where real conversations take place. So this is your free shirt here, and so we appreciate, just to say we appreciate
Thank you.
and thank you so much for stopping by the living room. And tell a friend that we're going to be here on the living room. And then next week I have my bishop, I believe, is coming on, and he is what I call the leaders of leaders. And we're going to be talking about leadership on leading on the next level and living on the next level. So he's going to come out. He's got some great things that he's going to share with us. You don't want to miss it. Right here, same time, 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights, the living room where real conversations take place. God bless you, and we love you.
The living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room where real conversations take place. Dear listeners, viewers, supporters, fans, friends, or family of the show, we are honored to have you here. to share your time, your thoughts, and experiences with us. This was created to be a safe but truthful space, and with truth comes light, you know? In the living room.
Welcome to
It's the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room, where real conversations take place. It's the living room. It's the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room, where real conversations take place.
I love your music.